Welcome, fam, to the Week 6 recap of the FFFL 2023 season. I am joined by a very special guest. His name is Tyler. Tyler, go ahead and introduce yourself. What's your actual full name? How are you related? All that fun stuff.
All right, so full name Tyler Shimoleski, very Polish last
Oh,
name.
we now know how to say it. Okay, cool. I never knew how to
Yeah,
say that. Okay.
yeah. So I am the cousin of Greg and the nephew of Andy, and I'm the cousin of Zach also, and I guess I would also be the cousin of Allison. So
And don't forget Casey. He plays in this league.
oh, Casey, yeah, and Casey and Sam
And Bob.
and Bob. Is there anyone else I'm forgetting? So yes, I am Stacy's son, who is Andy's sister. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
remember that time when she said she was going to be on in our league, and then she like crumbled at the end and was like, "Oh, I got too much things." Remember that?
Dude, she was being so like finicky about it, wishy-washy, and I was like, just do it. It's fine. I know you don't, I know she doesn't know anything about football, like not to be rude, but
Yeah,
I was like, just do it for fun, you know? I
yeah.
don't know a lot about football. So I mean, I know about the Colts, that's about it. So
Following them
yeah.
closely, and it's just unfortunate about Anthony Richardson. Glenn thinks that because it's hurt his team, but we think that because we're Colts fans, and I liked what you do. You like what you've seen so far when he's healthy and playing. You know,
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson, he's just been great.
Well, he's been all right. Honestly, the games Minshew's played, we've won, except for, this week, but
Yeah, yeah,
we
that's
played
true.
terrible.
But I
Yeah.
think Minshew's always been he's been a good like that solid backup. Like when the Colts got him, I was like, I'm actually excited. Like I don't look at him; they're not looking at
Yeah.
him as the future, but one of the most solid backup quarterbacks you could have.
They were definitely smart to get him. AR just needs to work on his accuracy with his passes. That's about it.
And that's
But
true. But the first
yeah.
week, I mean, he had a pretty good completion percentage, and I haven't seen enough of his throws. We can't get the Colts games here because the Bears
Oh,
play.
okay.
Like we don't get as much of that. But I mean, I'd say he was. I think he's better than what I expected
Yeah.
passing wise. But I'm not saying he's there. But his style is obviously to run and pass. So
And sliding needs to be his friend instead of just getting hammered by the defense because I mean, he's been hurt. So, and we
yeah,
need him to play and get that experience. So,
I know even Fields showed some better sliding this past week too, even though he got hurt. So I shouldn't say that he got hurt,
yeah.
but I saw at least a few plays where Fields actually slid, and you're like, okay, that's what you should do. You got to do more of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I
I
think
mean, he's
Jalen
big,
Hurts,
but
yeah, they are big. Justin Fields is big too. He's not as big as Anthony Richardson. It's like muscular
yeah.
wise, but they are solid dudes. It's just tough, man.
I think of like Cam Newton when I think of Anthony Richardson. So similar
Yeah,
build.
yeah.
So yeah,
He's faster than him, but he's that size. But Cam could run some people over. But if you think about it, like
yeah,
Cam didn't last as long as we all think he did. Like he was done by 30 because of
yeah,
that.
that's true. He had that like one or two good seasons with the Panthers.
Yeah.
That was about it. That was his prime.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I actually thought he was a good passer. Like when he came in the league, he threw for, I believe, over 4,000 yards in his rookie year, and was actually made like Steve Smith a viable like wide receiver option when he thought he couldn't be. But then he just turned into this like where they were just running him as the hammer, and like yeah, he's a big guy who could do that. But
Yeah,
to me, I just felt like his throwing potential was never reached, and he seemed like he actually had. I not he wasn't as great as Warren Moon, so I don't want to go off there, but he had like Warren Moon had good size. Warren Moon like moved kind of like that. I mean, he wasn't a mobile guy, but he to me reminded me of Cam Newton. Of like I felt like Cam Newton could turn into that Warren Moon style guy, and it just never happened. So I don't know, but we'll see what Anthony Richardson does next year,
yeah,
probably.
yeah. Hopefully he doesn't need that season-ending surgery, but it looks like that may be what's happening. So
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but again, thank you for coming on, Tyler. Like I know this always isn't your jam, but one of the things I love about you is that you'll hop on here and do this show. Unlike a few others out there who ain't coming on doing this, you'll even say like, "Hey, I don't know a ton about it, but I'm happy to hop on and do it with
No,
you."
I don't know a lot about fantasy football, as you can see by my record, but I will say injuries have gotten the best of me in my defense. So,
For the
but
second year in a row, I think.
yeah, that's last year. For those who don't know, I changed my name to the all injury team like halfway through the season because I started off as I would say the best team, and then injuries just got the best of me, and I was terrible the second half of the season. So
Yeah, you did actually. I remember that you started off like
I think it was four
winning,
and
and
one
you
or
were
something.
yeah, you were.
Yeah,
You were like within the first like week by week 5 or 6, you were near the top of the league, and then it just crumbled on you. JT went
yeah,
down, that hurt you badly, and it just kind of crumbled on you at the end. And now,
dude,
yeah,
I did not learn from drafting Mike Williams. My God, that dude is a beast when he plays, but his eggs are or his legs are like toothpicks. He just
yeah,
he can't stay
yeah,
healthy. So
and he doesn't catch many things without falling down. Like he's like one of those
no,
guys that like goes up for it and he's always landing on himself on his back and other shit and fucking himself up too that way. It's very weird. Very weird. Hey, can I ask you, this is gonna be weird, but what's that behind you? Like over your shoulder? Is that like a s'mores? Like a s'more?
oh yeah, it's a little squishmallow.
But is,
My
is it a
girlfriend
s'more
loves yeah, my girlfriend loves squishmallows. So
and s'mores?
yes, and s'mores. And then I have a little golf ball on top of it that I got in DC.
Okay.
So
I'm glad my eyes like work because I look at it, I was like, that looks like a s'more, but it's got a thing on top. Like you could maybe there's s'mores inside of it. So I thought that was like a handle, but it's a golf ball. Okay, that's what that is.
yeah.
And is that a Def Leppard poster slash drawing behind
Yeah.
you?
So that's another thing Reagan got me because she knows I love like 80s rock music. So
Okay.
you got me that
What
for
is
I
it?
think Christmas or my birthday. It's just a sign with the you
Oh,
know,
okay.
it's just the
Yeah.
flag from
Yeah.
the UK with Def Leppard on it.
But I
So
think that was one of their logos or something for an album,
yeah,
if I'm
I
not
think it was
mistaken.
for one of their albums probably or a
Is it
tour.
taped up? Is it taped up there?
Yeah, just command strips
Oh,
because
okay.
yeah,
It's very college, very college. That's what
yeah,
I'm
very
seeing behind you is very college.
exactly. I've got more stuff up in here too. I got a nice Coors Light sign in here somewhere. So
My greatest achievement ever, and actually was known around campus, um, in my first apartment, there was a Burger King that closed down on our campus. And they actually left like they had the big ass sign that's 30, 40 feet in the air, those big
yeah,
ass signs. They left it by their dumpster. So it was the big ass old school like bun on top, Burger King in the middle,
yeah,
bun on bottom. So that's technically a two-piece thing. So it's a two-piece thing. One of the buns is a piece, and then like the Burger King another bun is another piece. Like it's a two-piece sign. So I had my pickup truck at the time. My roommate and I found it, and I'm like, holy shit. So we fucking took it from that area. I had to lay down in my truck and hold on to the bubbled letters as he drove because it wouldn't fit in the truck. It's a pretty big
yeah,
sign. Well, we get it into our dorm and we end up having to break off where it had Burger King in the bun. That couldn't fit through doors. Like it was taller than 8 feet, and you couldn't fit it through any door. You couldn't move it. So we ended up having to like drive over the bun with my truck. So we drove my truck is on the bun, and then we're just like working this sign to like break it. So we break off Burger King, and then we have just the two buns as like separate signs. So we actually bring the Burger King into our apartment, backlight it, and so we had this wall that just had Burger King. That's what it was. So we became known around campus and even with like other like delivery drivers. I've had delivery drivers that are like, dude, I heard about this place. And then
yeah.
it's like the Burger King sign. That's what we got known for was this Burger King sign that was just in our thing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. That
Got
was
to work with what you got in college, right?
you do. I was gonna say it wasn't even on our wall. It was just like leaning against the wall with like two lamps behind it. Super dangerous. It probably could have burned down that whole place, but it didn't. That was the best thing
Hey,
we
it's
had.
about the experience
Yeah, exactly. This has
of
been
getting
one
it
of the
in
longer
there.
intros that we've ever had, Tyler. So we should
Oh,
probably
sorry,
people.
sorry to hold things up.
Yeah, sorry, peeps. I'm sure you all want to get into the actual meat and potatoes of this whole thing. So, Tyler, why don't we go ahead and do that for the people? Why don't we go ahead? I'll share my screen. I'll share the PowerPoint. We'll get it going. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Let's rock and roll, buddy. Let's rock and fucking roll. All right, from the beginning. This is the Week 6 recap. Going to hit up on our Week 6 matchups like we always do. Start with that ass whooping and working our way to those nail biters. We'll get injury report, maybe a little bit of sponsorship break in the middle, before we hit Dr. Sam's injury report. Go on to the waiver wire, what to do's. Hit up some Trade Central, lots of action this week with not much talk, but a lot of action, I guess. Hit the comment of the week and then wrap up with what is coming in week 7. So first, we're going to start with the ass whooping of the week, and it legitimately was an ass whooping. EJ over doubled Zach's score and actually beat him by 81 points, which I believe is the largest margin of victory that we have ever had in this league in the 1 year and a half that we've done it so far. Um, really, EJ's team, every single player went off except for oddly TJ Hawkinson. Without Justin Jefferson, you thought that TJ Hawkinson might do more, and he was like the lone like dull spot on EJ's team. But otherwise, his team freaking crushed it. And on Zach's side, the opposite. I kind of felt his pain with DeMercado this week in another league where he seemed to be like the number 3 back that Arizona was using. He was not the number 1 guy like we thought he might be. And really, besides the Chiefs game where Mahomes and the Chiefs D gave him some points, like he got really not much from anybody else. I mean, it was kind of a rough week. Anything that you might add to this one that you would have either done differently or something that you saw within that for Zach or for EJ that would have been different?
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing EJ last week, and obviously I gave him that wedding gift of playing Saquon. But yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, everybody popped off. I mean, everybody was in double figures except Hawkinson, which is something I'm not used to seeing, and probably Zach isn't used to seeing. So,
Yeah,
sitting here at the bottom of the league, but I would say for Zach, definitely Debo going down hurt.
yeah,
Seems to be one of his better players besides, obviously Mahomes and Mike Evans. Mike Evans had a pretty quiet game, I would say, for
yeah.
how
That was
he's
another
been
weird one
playing.
from Tampa Bay in
So,
general.
but yeah, those are
Especially,
just the things that I would point out. I get the Kansas City defense popped off for him though, so that kind of
yeah.
helped make it less of an ass whooping. But
And KC's D has been solid this year, so it's a
yeah,
solid defense. But it's actually a really interesting thought that was brought up, and I'll just bring this up before we go to the next game. But people are actually talking about the Kansas City's defense being so good that it's actually impacting Mahomes because Mahomes doesn't have to do as much now because the defense is shutting people down to a point where Mahomes may not be as valuable, and it's not because he's not amazing. Because to me, he truly is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play the game,
yeah,
but he just doesn't have to. Like their defense holds people down. Now Denver sucks, so it wasn't too tough this time, but they've been playing great all year. So that might be a defense he sticks with. And yeah, that Detroit Tampa Bay game was very odd because you thought it'd be more of a shootout there as well, but Tampa Bay just couldn't get it going, on any side, and so Mike Evans didn't get it going at that point. But well, Zach is talking about a lot of losses. We'll just kind of move past these losses, I guess, for him. I don't know what else to say about it. Feel for him, but hey, man, there's a few of you here at 1-5, and Tyler, you don't feel
yeah.
bad for him at all. I imagine you're like, yeah, join me.
No, no, I was happy to get my first win this week, even though it was a nail biter. But we'll
Yeah,
get into that later.
you know, uh, I will say for EJ, the scary part is what happens if Justin Jefferson does come back? That means he has Justin Jefferson and Cooper Cup. I mean, he took the gamble to take Cup later in the draft, and it's paying off for him now because once Jefferson comes out, well, now he just replaces him with Cooper Cup, and he's doing the same shit.
Yeah,
So it doesn't even matter. And on Zach's side, motherfucker, you traded for Josh Reynolds last week, but you didn't seem to play him this week. You didn't want to play him. You wanted to get rid of T. Higgins and go ahead and play and not play Josh Reynolds, and maybe you traded for. I mean, Sky Moore over Josh Reynolds. What is happening in this world, Zach? I don't know. I don't know, but maybe we'll touch on it a little bit later. All right, Zach. Maybe we'll do that. But let's move into almost the ass whooping of the week. And this was supposed to be the game of the week, Tyler. I mean, this was going to be, the two number one teams facing off. What a battle! It's going to be a bunch of heavyweights going after it. Nope, it was not at all. It was a rough go for Sam Well. I believe he had the lowest point total of the week, if I'm not mistaken. It was pretty darn close, but he did get the lowest point total of the week. Didn't have a ton to show for it. I mean, Chris Olave ends up being his best play on the week. No one really showed up. Justin Fields got injured, so that definitely hurt. But that game was a shit show from the beginning. Wasn't looking good either. And then Louis just continues to roll. Adam Thielen and Raheem Mostert combined for 61 points. And to me, they've been the main reason that Louis has been able to keep this point. I mean, 138 is his lowest point total in 3 weeks. I mean, that's scary to think about that,
Yeah,
in three
that's
weeks.
wild.
He has the second highest point total of the week again. He doesn't win the $10 for the week. It's been very tough for him in that regard, but man, if he just keeps on rolling. Anything else that you've kind of seen from this game?
Well, I mean, looks like even Louis bench did well, which is
Yeah,
scary.
yeah,
I mean, it looks like he should have maybe put in the Minnesota defense there. I mean, obviously you can't predict completely how your defense is going to play, but Brandon Cooks, even decent receiver. I watched Cowboys play last night. I mean, he played well.
yeah.
Um, so obviously Justin Fields going down, that hurts. But Raheem Mostert going off with 37.1 points. That's crazy. Fellow Boilermaker there. Like to see that. So
Oh, Mostert
um,
was a Purdue alum. I did not know that. I don't
yeah.
think I didn't know where he went to school.
Well, he's undrafted actually, so that's probably why. But yeah,
Yeah,
he's had a crazy couple 2 seasons here. So
he's
happy
on
to
an
see him go
offense,
off.
and the other running backs can't stay healthy. So I mean, he's going to keep getting that run until he can't stay healthy, and at that point, something might change. But man, yeah, he just keeps. I mean, Louis gonna be is a tough one to beat right now. I'll just say that, and I don't envy the person who plays him next. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
Sam, you got your ass kicked. You got lucky you weren't the ass whooping of the week, but you almost got doubled in your point total as well. I mean, Louis almost beat him by 70 also. So it did not turn into that heavyweight matchup that we were hoping for. But now we got two 5-1 teams, no longer any undefeated teams. And soon you'll find out that we didn't have any more defeated teams either. The only game that was kind of just I guess in the middle of not an ass whooping, but not a nail biter was Andy versus Kyle. Low scoring affair. Andy's team just rough. I mean, yeah, Bijan and CD were the only two players in double digits. Everyone else in single digits. That's always going to hurt you at that point. I don't know that I'd do anything different if I was Andy because I just think like you're gonna. I'd play Cousins against Chicago over Trevor Lawrence against Indy. I would have done it as well. It's kind of tough thing with Justin Jefferson, but you feel like you got other weapons there. Things seem to look like it could have worked out, but did not work out for him. And Kyle ends up taking it. In the end, lowest point like winner. Actually, I don't even think he was the lowest point total for a winner this week, but he ends up taking it. Goes to 2-4, while Andy goes to 1-5. Anything else that you might highlight into this matchup that set it apart and why Andy's coming up short? I would say,
I mean, just in the same boat as me, really. Just players not performing as you'd like them to.
yeah,
So I mean, your quarterback's not hitting double figures. That's a problem. So
very much so. Yeah,
yeah. So
I would say you need at least a minimum of like 15-ish points minimum to feel
yeah.
good about your week from a quarterback. I would say that. So yeah,
So
definitely tough. But I mean, he had some good performances from receivers did Kyle. I mean, they kind of carried his team for the most part. Allen's had a weird year so far, but he's played well. I mean, Josh Allen's played well. It was a rough game. It fucking looked terrible. But I know from experience that Stephon Diggs had a good game. However, Josh Allen didn't do as well, but he'll bounce right back. And a bad game from Josh Allen is still 18 and a half points. So
Yeah.
you can't really complain too much about that. But we'll move on. It wasn't really it was kind of just a ho-hum matchup, and the end CD Lamb couldn't do enough to make a difference. But we do have some nail biters, and this is a crazy one. This was down to the wire, end of the game. Um, I'll speak from Allison's point of view. She was definitely not loving that Indy game, and me neither, because I Minshew. But in the beginning of that Colts game, especially through the first half, she was worried because I mean Pittman and Granson, she has both. Neither had done much at that point, and so she was really sweating it. But that second half, while it doesn't look like it because they're actually some of her lower scoring people, like their second half really helped her out in that. Um, and then obviously on Bob's side, Tyreek and Tua combined, for over 50 points. That's a good combination to have on your team. They look good. Anything that you noted from this as to being the difference maker in this game? Because it was less than half a point. It's the victory. That's crazy.
I would say the Justin Herbert throw and catch to himself off the deflection. That was a interesting play.
Yeah,
I'm sure that helped her out with points. I don't know. That might have been the differential between her winning or losing.
it
So
was. That
yeah,
literal play is why she won, and it's the weird. I don't. Uh, we've all seen plays of that of like it gets batted down, but usually the quarterback either bats it down themselves because they're not trying to get hurt, or even if they catch it, they're like falling on it or they're like not going anywhere, they're just getting tackled. But he threw a pass, caught it, and then ran for 10 yards.
hmm, that's
So
wild. Obviously the Colts tight end Granson and Pittman Jr. doing something in the second half definitely helped her out. I don't know what it is with the Colts wanting to be a second half team, but they just are.
yeah,
In
true.
case of, I guess this week it was a fourth quarter team, but with Bob, I feel like you're guaranteed the Tua and Tyreek to get insane numbers each week. So
Yeah.
I know I play Bob, and I don't even think it was close for me. So
Tyreek is too good this year, man. I mean, it just seems like every week he's putting up 20 plus points in fantasy, and he's just great. He's just so good. So that's good. Yeah, but that was a tough battle. But you're right that Justin Herbert play is actually what won it for Allison. So him throwing to himself somehow, that's a 2 point play because he gets 10 yards of passing, which is point 0.4 points. That is the difference right there. But then he gets half a point for the catch,
yeah,
and he gets 10 points. So he gets a full point for the 10 yards that he goes. So it's 1.9 point play that happened on this fluky thing, and that's why Bob loses. So it's so weird. Otherwise, Allison should have lost by a point and a half. But what's funny about that is there's an interception at the end of the game, I guess. And what's funny
yeah.
is let's just say that play doesn't happen with Allison. She is then up by half a point. Then he throws that interception and she loses by a point and a half because of that interception. So like it's all crazy, man. It's just a very,
Fantasy
very
football.
weird game. But sorry for the
Yeah,
loss, Bob. But man, still got a great
that's
team, and Allison's team is playing well also. And the only thing I'll say with her is Puka not having a good game. To me, if you look at that score, you can tell 26-9. It was game script dependent. I think that second half, they didn't even need to throw the ball. They just kept running. That's why Kyron Williams
yeah.
ended up with the game he had. Because I think in the first half, Kyron Williams only had like 5 yards, and he ends up with like
Plus,
150.
yeah. I mean, it's expected that he wasn't really going to score that much because of Cooper Cup being back. Kind of figured he would take a second hand place on the team. So
Yeah, but last week it didn't look that way, and Cup still got a good amount of targets, so you'd think Puka's still in play. And I'd still play Puka, so I wouldn't bench him quite yet. But
yeah,
if you see next week as kind of a similar thing, yeah, you might want to look at it, and he might become this game script dependent person. So meaning if you feel like the Rams are going to have to keep up and throw a lot, then you might do it. Otherwise, Like you might look at a Drake London who's been having actually some really good games, and I'm kind of pissed off I traded him. So not working out for me right now. But I digress. All right. We'll move on into another nail biter that we had, and this was Case's Aces, who just eked out that Eki. They eked him out. I thought it might go poorly for Casey. At one point, I was thinking, oh man, especially with that Sunday night game coming up. But Eckler did not hit his potential. I mean, he's coming off an injury, so maybe you can't expect him to hit that 20-point mark that it had projected near. But he kind of fell on his face a bit. And I think that really hurt Glenn at that point. But on Casey's side, man, the only thing I'll say, I don't know how you don't play Amon Ra. Like, I don't know how you bench him if he's healthy. Like, certain players, I think you just kind of got to roll with it. If they're healthy, you play them. I mean, you're playing Jonathan Taylor over Zach Moss because he's healthy. I would think that you would do the same. So to me, it shouldn't have been as close because I think that you're playing Amon Ra over Marquise Brown, and at that point, Casey wins, scores 102.6 instead of 82.6, and it's a much different game. It's not even a nail biter. What say you? Anything that you notice that you would have maybe done differently from either side?
I honestly probably would have stuck with Zach Moss in the starting lineup, just
Okay.
based on how he's been playing.
Yeah.
Um, I think Taylor will eventually get more carries, but as of right now, I mean, with the way Moss has been playing, there's no reason not to play him the way the Colts have been playing him. And then obviously Russell Wilson playing the Kansas City defense. I mean, he
Yeah.
had a tough game. I mean, he could barely get the ball out. So
Yeah.
um, he was just getting hammered. I watched that game. It was, I know the Denver Broncos are terrible, but still, Russell Wilson has been playing decent at least. So, um,
Yeah.
but
And that's true. He's played well, even though they haven't looked great.
yeah, but yeah, I think like you said, it could have been a much different score, not a nail biter, had different players played for
Yeah.
Casey. So
To me,
yeah,
to me, it was just that it was I'm on Raw, but I can see what you're saying on the Zach Moss thing. But part of that could also been how far down they were, because I mean they were down, big early for the Colts, and so maybe at that point you don't run Taylor out there as much as you would have, just because you're trying to avoid injury with a game that's not looking good for you anyways. But I think it's just like a
yeah,
meter. That first week back, Moss got was like 80% to Jonathan Taylor's 20%. This past week could have been like 60-40, whereas it's going to go the opposite way next week. So I think you still run Taylor out there moving forward, but you make a good point. I think Moss is still going to eat into his workload in general, and so he might not be as valuable as he could have been, but he's still Jonathan Taylor. He's still a super talented guy. And on Glenn's side, technically, if he plays Pitts over Komet, he wins. But even in that matchup, Minnesota's not a great defense, and Washington has, to me, a better defense than Minnesota does. So I think you go either way with that. So I mean, I don't blame him for putting Komet in there instead of Pitts. I think that might have been a better play, and I probably would have done the same thing. But yeah, close matchup once again. But we're gonna get to the most important matchup, and this is our matchup. You know,
hmm
uh, you're welcome for your first victory of the year. I seem to be doing this 2 weeks in a row for different
I
leagues, but for
appreciate
winless
that.
teams. But yeah, like you obviously were paying attention to this one. What's your thought on the matchup? Like, how did it go? What was stressing you out?
Well, so obviously with CMC going out, that helped tremendously. He still got 15 on me, so I mean he still
Yeah, it's
did
true.
well for you. I would say
I
not
don't
as
think he
well as
went
you were
out until
hoping.
like the fourth quarter. I think it was either end of like mid to end of third or the fourth. So he at least played most of the game. I'll say at least played like 3 quarters of it.
And then yeah, okay. I was playing basketball actually, and then I just I came in and look at the fantasy, and I'm like, oh, I might actually have a chance because
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna kill me. I'm like, it's over. I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna be 0-6, and then I look and I see Montgomery went down, and then I had Reynolds. Also, he didn't play as like super well, but I mean he still did decent. Um, But yeah, I
Well, to
think
me,
those two injuries just
if you just flip those outcomes, right? Like
yeah
that's what an 8.5 point swing. So it goes my way instead of yours for the two running backs. Because when you were playing Reynolds, I'm like, I'm like rubbing my hands
yeah
together. I'm like, I got the
you're like
starter,
I
he's got
got
the
this in the
backup. It's
bag.
gonna be me. It's gonna go my way.
And then I got Saquon back, and he played better than I thought he was going to actually.
Yeah,
And then I wanted to see him get a touchdown. I don't know what the Giants were thinking running the ball just before halftime with no timeouts left, but I wanted to see him get that touchdown so bad. Um,
yeah.
but obviously that didn't happen. Diggs played well for me, and then ultimately it came down to Keenan Allen for you. And I mean, it was getting close there at the end. I saw him get that first quarter touchdown, and I was like, oh shit, he might actually pop off. And then Herbert just miscued so many passes to him. It was ridiculous. So
Did he?
I feel like he could have, yeah. There was probably, I want to say 4 or 5 throws he made to Keenan Allen that were just could have easily catchable balls if Herbert just makes it there. So,
Yeah.
um, and honestly, I don't know if he would have won, but it would have been closer. So, but I just want to know, like, what made you start Minshew over Purdy? I know Minshew outperformed Purdy technically, but what made you decide that from the beginning?
Uh, what's funny is we didn't everybody out there, we didn't queue this question up. I didn't know he was gonna ask me this, but I was talking like there's actually a story behind it that's a little crazy. So or all right, I'm gonna give it's gonna be a long semi long. But anyways, early in the week, Elijah Mitchell looked like he's not gonna play, like for the 49ers. It'll get there. So I thought he was going to be out because they were showing him as 0 points projected for Elijah Mitchell. Like, so when they do that and they're questionable, they're pretty much telling you he ain't gonna play, but he's just not designated there yet. So I actually set an alarm for like 11 o'clock because I was working, so I set an alarm because my plan was I'm going to put Elijah Mitchell on in my IR spot. I'm going to pick up Gardner Minshew for like future weeks and really potentially to play him this week. I actually like the matchup. The Jaguars are not that, I mean, they're a pass funnel defense. Like you should be able to throw on them. You did have Josh Down, so I didn't like that aspect of it, but I just felt like with the weather that was going to happen in Cleveland and what and like how that I could see that. And Cleveland's got a great defense. So like to me, I didn't really like that as much. I knew Debo has been kind of hurt. I felt like they're going to run the ball more. I didn't like that environment, and I just felt like Minshew's looked good this year when he's
Mm-hmm.
played. They're going to throw a lot more. Their pace of play is actually really high as well. Tyler, this all happened in 2 minutes. 2 minutes for the game. So
Are you serious?
I'm not shitting you. So then what happened is I set the alarm. It's like I ended up snoozing it or disregarding it because I'm with my friend who's there at our donut shop to fix our mixer. Well, I go out, I talk with him before he leaves. I get in my car. It's 11:58. I'm like, oh fuck. So I look at the Cleveland weather report. It says it might rain and it's windy. I'm like, oh shit, okay. I don't go then. Elijah Mitchell's not fucking out. What the fuck? So then I have to drop. So I dropped Sam Howell, or no, I dropped Salvin Ahmed instead, who I had picked up for Sam Howell. I then like at 11:59 get Minshew onto my team, and I'm like, this is about to hit. So I like quickly throw Minshew in there. Get home, I tell Allison the story, and she goes, "Well, Purdy has a touchdown pass already." I'm like, "You're fucking kidding me!" So it started off like Purdy right off the bat gets a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey. I'm like, God damn it. Of course, I do this on a whim. I make this adjustment. It
Yeah.
ends up being shit no matter which way you slice it. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But technically, I made the right move. And that's why I made it was I felt game environment. Weather wasn't looking good in Cleveland. I didn't like how that was going to go. And I was right. But I was wrong about the Minshew call. And guess who went off? And guess how I would have won if I kept Sam Howell this whole goddamn time and played him. I would have won our matchup.
Well, in your defense, Minshew hadn't thrown a pick until Sunday, so I get it. I mean, he was.
Uh,
I guess he still thought he played for Jacksonville or something because he was just throwing airmail to the fucking
that's what I
defenders on
heard.
Jacksonville. So,
But that's
yeah,
where too much thinking went into the decision. And but you know what, Tyler, my tight end did better than your tight end. So I got a
yeah,
better
by
tight
a
end than
tenth of a
you.
point. Yeah, okay. George Kittle went off last week, and this week nothing.
You never bench him. He always remains in your tight end
Yeah,
spot, and you just got to know that most weeks I'm going to get 4 or 5 points or less. But then there's going to be weeks where I'm going to get 25 points. Like you're going to have two or
yeah,
three 25 pointers, and then you're going to have every other game is going to be 5 or less. Ask Kyle about it. Me last year, not so much. He actually played pretty consistently well at the back end of last year when I had him. But like for the most part, that's what he does. So, but yeah, nice victory. I'm glad you got a W. No more undefeated teams. No more defeated teams. We are
I know.
in
It
that
feels good.
zone. Yes, but nice job to everybody. I know this part went a little bit long, but appreciate everyone continuing on. We are through week 6. All is well. Um, Now we're going to get into our sponsor. Dr. Sam really pulls some big time sponsors before he comes on, and it's been really nice to have some of these. And this week's podcast is possible due in part to Zach's Horse Sanctuary. For years, Zach dedicated his life to the safe and ethical transportation and exchange of purebred horses. Zach even dedicates his fandom to the Indianapolis Colts just to show further love to the animals that bring him joy. If you have any horses that you're trying to sell off or trade, talk to Zach by calling 1-317-467-7437. Once again, that's 1-317-HORSES. Offers made by Zach in no way reflect the actual value of the players offered and are not sanctioned by the FFFL because Zach is no expert. Well, what a great sponsor we had there for the injury report provided you by Dr. Sam. Um, Dr. Sam has given us a what I'll call an impromptu injury report because we are doing this a little bit earlier than normal. So we appreciate Dr. Sam doing it. And without further ado, here is your week 6 injury report.
Welcome back to another mobile edition of your injury report for week 6 in the NFL. Jumping off here is Christian McCaffrey, who is the star running back for the San Francisco 49ers. Looks like he had an oblique injury. Seems like he's going to be out for about 1 to 2 weeks. Justin Fields, quarterback for Chicago, had a thumb dislocation. Appears that there was no surgery, so they're really just basing off his grip strength to see how he recovers. Seems to be probably 2 to 3 weeks for him to maybe suit back up. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville quarterback, had a knee sprain. MRI came back negative. However, they do have a short week, so he may be sitting for this week. Should probably return after that, as quarterbacks can move around after that, but they probably won't be. He won't be as mobile. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, looks like he had a high ankle sprain. Typically going to be about 2 to 4 weeks for the quarterback. He's not quite as mobile, so he may not need the full 4-week period. Going into the bye, we'll look for him to potentially return as long as everything goes well, because he did have an injury to that ankle in the past. Jimmy G, quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, left the game with a back injury. He was transported to the hospital. Looks like everything they're saying is good. They kind of dodged the bullet with some of the injuries there. So his status is still currently unknown, so we'll have to check back in to see if he's practicing this week. Baker Mayfield, quarterback for Tampa Bay, left with a left hand injury. The x-ray came back negative, so more than likely going to be similar to Justin Herbert's injury. He'll be able to play through because it's his non-throwing hand. David Montgomery, running back for the Detroit Lions, left the game with a rib injury. Appears to be some rib cartilage injury. So probably about 2 to 3 weeks for him to be back up to full speed. Kyron Williams, running back for the LA Rams. It did say low ankle, but they already ruled him out for this next week. So typically that's going to be more of a high severity low ankle sprain. Probably take about 1 to 2 weeks. Not quite as severe as a high ankle sprain, but still going to put him back a little bit. High re-injury rate for the first couple weeks when he's back. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the Jets, looks like he had a low ankle sprain. Seems like he's probably going to be okay to get started for the next week. DK Metcalf left the game but did return. He's the wide receiver for the Seahawks. Left the game but did return. They said hip injury. It looks like he just landed on it, so my guess is more of a hip contusion. He'll probably be fine to play through that. Debo Samuel had a left shoulder injury. Typically, these take about 1 to 2 weeks if it is like an AC sprain type thing. But Debo's been known to play through some injuries. However, not sure how effective he's going to be in this first week coming back. And then Damian Harris, running back for Buffalo, looks like he had a neck injury. I haven't seen much about him, especially early in the week. We're just checking practice reports, see how guys are progressing moving forward. There wasn't a whole lot of information this week. But good luck, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Nice job, Dr. Sam. He always provides us with valuable information in his injury reports. I heard a lot of quarterback injuries in there. I also heard about my two main running backs who are probably going to miss out on some time as well. And a few wide receivers in there that might miss some time. So therefore, we got to think about how the heck are we going to make this work? So, if you are looking for a QB this week, let's look at some of the waiver wire quarterbacks that we might have here. Um, Tyler, of this list of available quarterbacks, any of them that you like and that you, if you needed a quarterback, might take a stab at here?
I would say probably Sam Howell. That's about it. I would not go with Hoyer. I don't even know why they have him as their backup. It should be Aiden O'Connell. You know what you're getting with Brian Hoyer, and
Yeah,
there's a reason he's been a backup the entire time he's been in the league. Um, I think Pickett maybe, but he's too inconsistent and not a great quarterback in my opinion. I see Daniel Jones is questionable. Honestly, I like what I looked from Tyrod Taylor a little better than Daniel Jones because he can actually move.
yeah.
The New York Giants don't have an offensive line, so Daniel Jones is not a mobile quarterback. He's like great value Eli Manning. So
Yeah, he's well, he's not a great quarterback. He is mobile, but he's that's just that team sucks. The Giants are just not.
they are. They're just terrible.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm upset. I even let go of Sam Howell now. I just think he is. If you're looking for a quarterback, to me, he's the option here. I don't like really anybody else on this list. I'm with you on Hoyer too. I mean, it's amazing. This is like the ultimate. It's good to know somebody because he's been working with freaking Josh McDaniels for most of his career, and so therefore he maintains a job even when he's like he's got to be in his 40s and he's a backup in his 40s. Why do you want that? But
Exactly.
especially for a team, I think the Raiders might have 2 wins. I think I don't know if they're a great team anyways, but yeah, not many great options. If you're looking for a quarterback, I would jump on Howell. Truly, that's what I would do. And shoot, you might even see me hopping on him myself, getting rid of Minshew already. Who knows? But yeah, I would go with that, and then I leave it there. Let's move on to running backs. Obviously, I need to potentially look to add some of these players. And I actually think we have some decent options here. Anybody here, if you're looking for a running back that you might say, hey, I would look to add that guy.
I would say either of the Rams running backs. I was actually looking at picking up one of them because I saw their running back. I can't remember his name. I'm going to be honest. Went
Yeah,
down,
Kyron Williams
but
is out. Yeah.
yeah. So I was looking at picking up then because I mean I have a gap in my running backs. I just have Saquon and that's it. So I need another running back. But that would be the two I would look at personally. And maybe anybody else who's injured and there's a secondary option at running back. Kareem Hunt, I saw actually had a decent game. So maybe
Yeah.
him, but
He had
he hasn't
15
really done
points.
much. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm with you. I don't know what to tell you about the Rams backfield. It seems like it'd be Zach Evans. However, I don't know how well he's going to do in that. Royce Freeman will be the backup guy. What they're projected for is not how this is going to go down. I mean, in my opinion, they're just going to throw the ball more. So I would say for a Puka Nakua, I think you'll actually see a better game because I feel like they're going to go more with that. Cooper Cup will have a big week, that kind of stuff. But tough to say what to do with that backfield. But I think you gotta, if you need running back, you gotta take a stab at one of those guys. And Evans is the lead back, they've said. He's most likely going to be the lead back. Kareem Hunt, he had 15 points this past game. I, if I'm honest, like watching him, some people say he looked good. I'm like, I didn't see a guy look great out there, but at the end of the day, they have a pretty good offensive line. That could be a good option. And even same thing in Arizona, Keontae Ingram and Damian Williams. I mean, Damian Williams got a lot more run than I thought he would. I mean, that's where we all thought DeMarcado was going to be the guy, and he ended up being the third in line. So Keontae Ingram looks to be the main guy in that backfield. So I think really those top four options are good options for somebody looking for a running back. And I even tell you, potentially Jordan Mason at the very bottom. That's why I included him on here because if CMC were to miss some time, I mean, Mason got some run. That's a great offensive line with a scheme that's built for running backs. So I'd even tell somebody to take a stab at Jordan Mason. I have Elijah Mitchell, so I'm not doing that. But shoot, and another one, Salvin Ahmed for the Miami Dolphins. If Jeff Wilson is not playing once again, that makes Salvin Ahmed like the number two back in Miami. Mostert is known to get hurt. He's lasted longer this year than I feel like he's ever lasted in his NFL career for a stretch, which is sad. But Salvon Ahmed might be good one. So I think there's actually a lot of good options on here this week for anybody who might be looking for a running back ad. Next up, we got wide receivers. This one is not so great. I don't feel as good about the wide receivers this week as I don't feel. Let's just say what I just said about the running backs. A lot of good options. I feel the exact opposite here with wide receivers. So I don't know what your thought is on any of these guys. Any of them that you might be interested in picking up if you absolutely needed a wide receiver.
Honestly, I watched the Giants game and Slayton actually had a decent game, double figures, but one off, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Odell, maybe 5 years ago you pick Odell, but he's not doing anything right now. He's just not the player he was since all his injuries. I
yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't say anybody on here's is worthy of really picking up unless you absolutely need a wide receiver. So
I'm with you. Here's what I'll say, and it actually is in that middle bunch there of Wandale Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, and Darius Slayton. So what I would say is if you're going for a wide receiver now, what I'll probably end up telling you is you're probably looking for a boom guy. You're probably looking for somebody who could get me into double digits. And yeah, I would go with Darius Slayton or Kendrick Bourne. Both of them have the potential for that. I think Bourne did it this week, and like you said, Slayton had a decent game. They're both more like deeper threats. Bourne is the best wide receiver that the Patriots have, even though they suck. If you're looking for more of a consistent thing, Wandale is a good option. He's going to get targets. I mean, he'll get 8 targets in a game. It's just coming from either Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones. So you don't know how great those targets are. Rondale Moore the same way. Rondale Moore actually gets some run in the backfield too. So he'll usually get a few rushes, especially with James Conner being out. And we just told you Keontae Ingram and like they've got a weird backfield right now. So Rondale Moore might even be one. I don't know. But I'll tell you, Elijah Moore, who's had the potential all year, that projection of 9.3, I don't even know if he's hit that yet this year. He has not hit double digits at all this year as a receiver. So just be cautious of that. I know it's against the Colts, but if it's PJ Walker throwing the ball, no thank you. I'm not even going to try with this man. So yeah, hopefully you can avoid wide receivers this week. If you can't, maybe go for one of those boom options of Slayton or Bourne. And lastly, we'll hit on tight ends. I'm going to go with the running back side. Like, I actually feel pretty good about a lot of options here. Take your pick. Anybody that you might go after more so than another that's on this list?
the only one that I could think of would maybe be Everett.
Sure.
He had a decent game
Yeah.
last night, was it? So uh, Dawson Knox, maybe. I don't know. He was good last year, decent last year. It doesn't seem like he's really that good this year, but those would be only the maybe two I would look at.
For me, I like a lot of these options. Janu, I just don't know what to do with it. He plays with Kyle Pitts. It's like a weird offense that it's odd that it's odd that Janu is as high as he is and has done as well as he's done this year. Like, I'll just say that. But I agree with you. Everett might be the top choice this week, and also because they're going against Kansas City, so they're going to have to throw. They're going to have to try to keep up, even though that Denver game didn't show that. But Hunter Henry against Buffalo, I think that's actually a good option there. Kate Otten, another receiving option for Tampa Bay. I don't like that game environment as much. But one that's shoot, Michael Mayer. He's starting to turn it on as a rookie tight end for the Raiders. But we'll see who's throwing them the ball. If it's Hoyer, that actually might work out well because Hoyer probably can't throw the ball further than the tight end. So that might actually work out really well for you. And last but not least, Taysom Hill, Andy, Taysom Hill. He could shit. Just throw it out there. Taysom, he got like 13 and a half points in our league. I mean, I think, or he got close to 10 in our league this week, somewhere around there, double digits. He could do it. So who knows? Who knows what's going on? But I think there's a good options here, meaning unless you have a top guy like a Kelsey or an Andrews or a Laporta or a Hawkinson, you're probably doing this. Because if I have a Kittle, I'm probably not going to play these guys over a Kittle because I've got a
Yeah.
guy who can go for that. But
Well, I
someone
know
like
you had
myself, I'll be
Hunter
going for
Henry for a
somebody.
while.
You what?
I know you had Hunter Henry for a while. He was top three like the first three games.
Yeah, he did well. But now it's
Did he
like
just
the last two, it's
yeah.
not been well. It's been good. It's been weird. Their offense isn't good right now. So yeah, I don't know what to
Oh
do.
yeah,
But
Patriots terrible.
yeah, but I mean,
Terrible.
I will say I might go after somebody that's on this list here. Honestly, I might be up for a mayor this week or something against Chicago. Who knows? But we'll figure it out. But yeah, that's that. But that's our waiver wire for this week. Injuries are happening. There are plenty, so you got to figure it out somehow. And this is also a major bye week. There are 6 teams in the NFL that are on bye this week, so a lot of our teams might be looking for some quick rentals, we'll say, for a week. But good luck. Now we're getting to Trade Central, and I got Denzel on here. I don't usually bring Denzel on the podcast, but I had to bring him on this time because I didn't have anybody reach out to me personally with shit. But what I will say is there's been a lot of trade discussions going on, and with Denzel doing a little bit of this, I like it because I think things are happening. Things are happening. People are finding out what trade values are. I offered up potential trade to Kyle, and him and actually went back and forth for a little bit about a potential trade. I know Zach's throwing some out there. I've already touched with Zach of actually liked. I thought Zach offered a good trade. It's just that I had another receiver on the same team of a receiver he was offering me, and I don't like to carry usually 2 receivers from the same team. That's a rarity that I would ever do that, so I just kind of had to decline it. But it wasn't a bad offer; it was still a good offer. But a lot of trade talks that have been happening, and I love it, man. I like hearing that people are doing that. What about you, man? Like I know Sam did this to me last week, but you're 1-5. You got to make some moves right now, as to really improve the overall team that you have. If you are looking to let go of somebody? Are you looking to improve somewhere? Like, what's your thought?
Well, I definitely need another running back. So honestly, like I know I said I didn't want to trade Stephon Diggs, but I would be open to trading him for a decent receiver and a good running back. Just
Okay,
because I have, you know, Curtis Samuel on my bench. I could always play him if I need to. It's just kind of conflicting. Like I don't necessarily want to play 2 receivers from the same team because I also have what's his name? Um McLaurin. So I was kind of bobbling between
sure.
playing one or the other this week. So, but I would be open to trading Stephon Diggs for a decent wide receiver and a good running back because right now, my other 2 starting running backs are sitting on my bench injured. So it's not
Uh,
great. So,
Yeah, and that's tough. And I think when you're going through that, you have to evaluate where you're at in the season, first off, because I would agree, like when you think of a Stephon Diggs, how well he's playing, I mean, he's one of the top receivers in the NFL and in fantasy football. I think he's just maybe behind like a Tyreek and some of those others, but he's been consistent every week, right? I mean, he's putting up good numbers every
yeah.
week. But that is where you kind of have to get into that mode of like, okay, I'm willing to trade a top guy, but I got to get 2 players in return. And I would say, if you're going to go after a top guy, that's what you got to offer too, right? You got to offer some value of 2 or 3 good players to go along with that. And that's what someone in your position and even in Zach's position is what he's was trying to do with Mahomes is try to get couple of better, good players to make his team more well-rounded at that point. Because yeah, as you see, you kind of it gets to a
Yeah.
point where man, it gets tough to
So
scrape through some of these
I
weeks.
may I may send out some trade offers to people. So I'm by no means an expert trader. So if it seems completely unfair, just tell me. So
Well, and you know what? That's a really great point that you bring up because that's another reason that people kind of get scared off is like you're like I don't know like what is a good value, and they have the trade analyzer in the app. So if you're using the app, they will give you a decent analyzer for the trade. I actually don't really like trade analyzers because there's a lot more involved than just simply one for one. There's so much more involved in like what does your team actually need? You know what I mean? And that trade analyzer tries to like
yeah,
show that to you, but it's not great with it. So I'm not always huge, but at least it gives you a baseline to show where some sort of value is in it. And if you're going for a Diggs, like if I'm going for a Stephon Diggs myself, like I'm gonna know that, I'm gonna have to give you like a Garrett Wilson, a James Cook, and that probably wouldn't even do it. It might even be something else. Like right, like it's like you got to be okay with that, and can your team handle it? And there aren't many teams right now that have that kind of depth either. So it's getting to a point too where it gets tough to do some of these things because even myself, well now with the CMC and Monty, my top two running backs potentially out this week, like I don't really have the depth anymore at running back. I already
yeah.
traded Najee. Now I'm potentially going to be playing like Tyler Algier at a time when I don't want to play him, stuff like that. So it gets tough.
Injuries.
Oh, the injuries. But thank you all for making offers. Keep doing it. Keep finding out where people value certain players and what they think. So keep that up. I really like hearing it. I love hearing it. We're offering it. It makes me really happy. It makes Denzel happy. Look at him. He's loving it. All right. Last but not oh shit, not last, not least. I'm sorry, forgot we had the comment of the week, and I heard a lot kind of going into it. Any comments that kind of stick out to you that you enjoyed this week?
My favorite, I guess you can call me biased because I guess it involved me, but Allison's comment of saying at least Tyler suffered in silence last year when talking about Zach complaining. Yes,
Yeah.
over here suffering in silence currently now too, even though we got the first victory. So we're looking optimistic for next week. So, but
Yeah. I
yes, that
love
was
that one too. That was
one of
good.
my favorite comments this
That was
week. So
good. Um, you always have some good witty ones as well when you decide to chime in, but you are still suffering in silence again this year. But yeah, the exchange. I mean, I was asleep, last night during the game, but when I woke up and read the text chain, I was like, oh my god, it's hilarious. I just loved it between Bob, Zach, and Allison. That little banter back and forth for a bit. That was funny. It was cracking me up. So, and then even the stuff this morning about me pissing my pants while after taking
yeah,
mushrooms. Like even some of that stuff gets me going. So
you'll never live that down. That's always going to come up at some point.
and I should never live that down. I
Yeah.
legitimately peed my pants. I thought I was on my deathbed and basically told Allison, who the fuck cares? I'm dying anyway. So I feel
Oh,
bad for even for her having to clean it up and being like, who did I marry? What happened? So
where am
yeah.
I? What's going on?
I was I was full on tripping. And I think the funniest part about it, after everything that went on, like in my brain of what happened, what's going on, at the end, like I sobered up like that. It was still light out, and I'd ask Allison like what time it was, and when she told me, I'm like, that was all in like a 4 hour period.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit! Like, what actually happened with my life? Oh my god. But anyways, that doesn't have anything to do with this league. But yes, I will never live that down. I should never live that down. And I surpassed Andy's eating the edible cookie moment by pissing myself after taking mushrooms. So our
Oh
family
yeah,
needs to get
I had to
control of their
drive
drug
him. By the
usage.
way, I just want to clarify. I had to drive Andy home.
Yeah, you did. That's so funny. Oh, yes, okay. Now we're gonna move on, Andy. Right, we're gonna move on to the week 7 matchups, and we always start off with the standings. So standings didn't remain the same, but they remained the same at the top, even though there was a big power shift after this past week. But Allison jumped from, I believe, fourth place into second place in our division there. Uh, Zach falls to really just secure that last place in the East. He really secured it this week, and Kyle's victory put him ahead of that. And then in the West, no more undefeated and defeated, right? So we now everybody has at least a win and a loss. But
So
you are still at the bottom, but barely. I
yeah,
mean, Andy is barely hanging on to not fully sucking right now. He's feeling it though. So these are our standings moving into week 7, which is a crucial week because week 7, after this week, we are halfway home. I mean, we're halfway through the regular season at that point. So, got some big time things happening. And with those big time things, first one that I'm noting is I'm going to say the game of the week is the matchup of the number twos. Who does number 2 work for? And if anybody knows where that reference is from, kudos to you. Um, let's just say I think it was Dan Arnold is also a part of that scene in that movie and really trying to tell him, you show that number 2 who's boss. So we'll see who shows the other number 2 who's boss this week between EJ and Allison. Both have pretty good projections. Most of Allison's bye weeks were in week 5, so she's actually got probably most of her players that she's actually going to play. I don't know if she's going to choose somebody different at tight end. I know she talked about that. Even though Granson did okay, he seemed to have a questionable tag. I don't know what happened to the game if he's hurt or not, but she might make a shift there. But otherwise, I think she's kind of set in what she's doing. And then on EJ's side, I know that he's making a pivot slightly to Jordan Love because I think there's a bye week happening. He's also got the Denver defense against Jordan Love, so rolling him out there. But he's got some other players that are on bye or hurt as well. But he's able to roll Christian Watson with Jordan Love to maybe pair a nice combo. Because I will say, if those two hit on a long bomb, I think that could be what wins it for him this week. This would be a close matchup. Anything else that you might see that could be like the difference between who takes the victory this week?
well, like you mentioned, Allison figuring out the tight end spot. I can't remember what happened either. I know Granson was hit. I think it was his shoulder or something. I can't remember, but
Okay.
um, I top two teams, it's almost 50-50 split. I know that the ESPN ratings mean nothing because it can go either way. Someone could get hurt, whatever. But if Puka does well for Allison, that could favor for her. I know he had a
Sure.
quiet week,
Yeah.
so I expect Cooper Cup to do Cooper Cup things. Jordan Love, never know with him, So I think
Yeah.
I like Herbert in that matchup. But he also didn't play too well last night either, so who knows there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a close game. So
Yeah, I think what I will say is I feel as though EJ his players are going against some tougher defenses. I think anytime you're playing New Orleans, that's always tough. They have a good defense. Obviously, San Francisco has a stellar defense as well. Pittsburgh has not really played great defense so far this year. However, to me, that's a team that's always got that potential. Like they have a great um, you know, a defensive line. They have TJ Watt, who's defensive player of the year, coming off of that. I mean, so they could make some ruckus there. Whereas Allison, while she does have Indy going against the Browns, I think she will change her tight end up. But I mean, anytime your team is playing against Miami, they're going to have to throw and keep up. Same thing with Kansas City. So with the Chargers playing Kansas City, another high scoring game potentially. So she might have some better matchups on her side for that, which could help edge her out. But I like what you said about Puka, that he might be really that difference maker for her as well. So on EJ's side, I think it's if Love and Watson can connect on that long touchdown, and you noted Puka, what he's going to do this week, and if he's going to get utilized more, that's going to be a major difference for her. So good luck to both of those teams, and we'll see if one of them. Potentially if EJ wins, I think he could potentially take number one if Sam also loses. So that could put EJ in number one spot in that division there. Next up, we got Case and I, third place bros. We're third place pros in our divisions. I'm just worried because it's Casey and he always ends up beating me. I think I finally beat him in the consolation bracket like championship game last year, but otherwise in the regular season he fucking had my number and my team always shat the bed against him. I mean, not even close against him last year. And so I feared the same thing's going to happen. And if I'm without CMC, who's my number one player, that's going to be a tough one to replace. So, like at that point, it does become a difficult situation. The only thing I will say on his side, Tyler, is he's got to figure out his running back situation because
Yeah.
he only has the Indy running backs, and I don't think he's going to play both Moss and Taylor against Cleveland, who has one of the best run defenses in the league. So I would dare to say he's A, not going to play both running backs on the same team, and B, they're also facing a decently tough matchup. Anything that you noted in this matchup that you might say sways it one way or the other?
Yeah, the running backs, just like you said. I mean, you have CMC out, maybe potentially, and then Montgomery out. That definitely hurts you. Like you said, two Colts running backs. You could play them both, and maybe something good happens. But Cleveland's got one of the best run defenses. Probably not. I mean,
Right,
based on how they played against Jacksonville, which is has a decent run defense, but they didn't even combine for 50 yards together. So
right. That's
I
gonna be
mean,
tough. So we'll
yeah,
see what he does there. But he's got some good matchups for his players. I mean, Chicago, Devontae Adams going to Chicago, it's Hoyer throwing the ball. That's the tough part. But if they can get him the ball, just like focus on just get him the ball in short distance, I think that'd be good. Seattle, that is definitely encroachable. You have Kelsey going against the Chargers in a high scoring game. You have Devonta Smith going against the Dolphins in a high scoring game. So I do feel like he's got some decent matchups. And on my side, like kind of the same. I feel like similar, like okay matchups in a lot of the spots. But if I don't have CMC, I got to figure that out. So
yeah,
I'll just be honest. I'm going to go after some of these running backs on the waiver wire. I have to. I got to be able to replace some of these guys, and that I think this will be an interesting week at the end of this. And I'm sorry to like kind of skip, but this will be an interesting week to see who drops who from their team. So everybody pay attention to who gets dropped during this free agency period because you might be able to pick up some decent players if you have the ability to, early this week, for future weeks. So just be aware. But Casey, hopefully my team's buttholes don't shrivel up when they play you this week, and it's a decent matchup. We will see. Next, we have Bro Code. Bro Code is playing each other this week. So we have Andy, who is pretty much last in the division. I mean, you and him are tied at 1-5
yeah.
against number one in our division of Louis, who's number one in the whole league by a wide margin, I think, now. So Louis is just kind of crushing it. I imagine he's going to beat the living shit out of Andy this week as well. I mean, Louis projected for 124 points when I think the next closest is EJ and Allison at like 114. So Louis projected 10 points ahead of them, and his average is, as you can see, 132 with the players he's got there. So I don't know what Andy's going
Yeah,
to do, and he's got some buys and he's got other shit going on. It's going to be tough, man.
I project this probably being the ass kicking of the week. I hate to say
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but um, yeah. Sorry, Andy, you're down there with me. So I
yeah,
mean, Louis
especially
is just his team is just god tier. So
it is. I mean, he has one of the better teams in any league that I'm in. I mean, this is a team that keeps going. Like I said, with him, with Mostert and Thielen. I mean, Andy is lucky that fucking who thought I'd ever say that? Andy is lucky that Adam Thielen isn't playing this week, like because now he can't drop a 20 burger on him. But even Andy,
yeah,
even who Andy has going, those are tough matchups. I mean, Cousins, you might have to play him because if Trevor Lawrence is injured and out this week, then you have to play Kirk Cousins against San Francisco's defense, which means you're probably going to play KJ Osborne, who isn't going to do well. Bijan Robinson against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. showed this week they actually have a decent run defense. Like they were a really good run defense last year. I think they just had a slow start this year, but Tampa Bay has a good run defense, so Bijan may not go do well against them. And New Orleans has a good defense as well. So even if Trevor Lawrence can play, they're playing against New Orleans defense, which is a tough one. And then his Dolphins defense is going against Philly. Philly hasn't been great, but they have the potential to be a great offense, and that could be a tough one too. So I'm with you, man. This is shaping up to look
Yeah.
like the ass whoop. I should have just put that. Yeah, pre-ass whooping of the week is what it should have been called instead of bro code.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, sorry. But good call on that, Tyler. Good call on that. We'll just move on for you, Andy. That's gonna be tough. Um, this next one I'm calling the Memsgiving Melee. And for those of you who aren't in the group, uh basically Glenn's house is who we used to always go to for Memorial Day. It's Glenn's house. He's got had a really nice place. He still has it, but he's moving to North Carolina here next year at Memorial Day time frame. But we would always go down there. He lives in like the Bloomington, Illinois area, which is central Illinois. Nice house on the lakes. We'd always go there for Memorial Day. And then he would always come up to my in-laws for Thanksgiving every year. So then we just kind of turned it into Memsgiving is what we'd always call it. We had our own Facebook group, I think, at some point and whatnot. So that's why it's called the Memsgiving Melee because Sam and Glenn are playing against each other this week. They might have to wrestle during a upcoming Memsgiving just to decide who's actually the victor in the family. I don't know. But Sam is still number one in the West, even though he's had a Jekyll and Hyde season. He has won two high scores of the week, and yet his other 4 weeks, I think, has been under 100 points. I don't know if he scored 100 in any of those weeks, and then he'll pop off for 160. So he'll either be scoring a 90 or he's going to score 160, is what it seems. So very weird for Sam. He doesn't have Justin Fields this week. He's already said it's shown as doubtful, and he's probably not going to play. So he's got a QB decision to make. He has Mixon and Chase, his top running back, and his top receiver out. This is going to be a tough one for Sam. And on the other side for Glenn, he's still got some decent players in. He's obviously got to choose a different running back to go in for him, or actually, I guess I'd say a flex because he's got Eckler who can move in that spot. So he'll figure that out. But it could be closer to Glenn's side than we realize with the bye weeks and the injuries happening for Sam. What do you say, kind sir?
Well, I say Glenn's probably got the upper hand here just because of Fields being down and also Olave. I don't Chris Olave. I don't know what his injury is, but I know he takes some big hits. I've seen a lot of compilation videos of him just getting absolutely decimated by defenders. So I'm assuming that's what happened. I don't know, but um, so figure out the QB situation. I know we talked about earlier. There's not really any good free agent
Yeah.
QBs right now besides Howell maybe. So
And I feel like you're going to get a lot of waiver acquisitions around Howell for that reason of like I think I could see Sam going after him. I could see potentially even Andy going after him if he's not quite sure about Trevor Lawrence and doesn't like Kirk Cousins. I think there's some others that could do the same thing um, with that. And with Olave, it is weird because last year he was such a deep threat and you figure
yeah,
that would have happened with Derek Carr, but they just haven't connected. And Derek Carr had the shoulder injury, and so you don't know how much of that is there. But it seems like Rashid Shaheed is the deep threat now, and Olave, and then you got Michael Thomas getting the underneath stuff, and is Olave going for that medium stuff? I don't know. He just hasn't had the season that you thought he may have had this year. So yeah, not going great for Olave. So it could be a tough one for Sam, but the good part is Bills D is playing New England, and New England sucks. So maybe that'll be okay. And I would imagine Glenn is going to choose a different defense than the defense that's playing against Miami. So I think he'll choose a different D there, and
yeah,
so that'll be a different projection for him at that point. But but yeah, this should be an interesting one. I do give the lean towards Glenn because of some of those injuries and that bye week for Sam. So let's move on. We got the Green Bass Turds of Kyle going up against Bob's Bandwagon. You got Josh Allen. I don't think that injury is anything serious from what it seems, and even Dr. Sam didn't speak on it because I think it's just he is questionable. But it sounds like they're kind of saying like he's going to play. He's not really going to miss any time. So at least he has his top option there. But he's got to figure out his running back situation. I thought even Jacoby Myers got hurt at some point. I couldn't remember. I thought Myers even potentially got hurt, but I might be wrong about that. And then Bob's got I think, just a solid team. And so when you have a solid team like Bob has, and you've got Tua and Tyreek, you're always going to be a little afraid there. Anything you see in this matchup, or who do you kind of lean towards winning this one?
Oh, I would say Bob probably. I don't. It looks like Kyle has an empty slot there at running back. Um, on his bench here, it looks like he's got Elliott maybe, but again, Patriots offense. So
Yeah,
you
but
know,
Elliott's just gotten more runs, so that might actually be the
yeah,
play. You're kind of right about that, actually. Like, it sucked. It sucked. You played Craig Reynolds, like, right? It's like you
yeah.
kind of get to a point where well, I got to play somebody.
Is
You know
yeah,
what I
exactly. I
mean?
mean, it's tough with the bye week. Tony Pollard, he's a decent running back for
Yep,
Dallas, but
yep.
take what you can get. I mean, so
Agreed.
but
But Zeke won't be as bad as we think against Buffalo because, like I said, the Buffalo's defense kind of getting decimated by injury in general.
yeah,
But you don't feel confident. You feel like, oh, great, I'm going to get fucking 8 points from Zeke. But shoot, if Damian Harris with his injury, he won't be back. I mean, that was a scary one where the DeMar Hamlin type of shit was happening, where the field went silent, stretcher came out.
yeah. I
So
I
that
I
means
watched some of that game actually. I mean, I saw Damian Harris get hurt, and then the Josh Allen injury. I mean, he was out for like 3 plays and came back in. So
right.
and then he played the rest of the game. So
So
I
you feel
mean,
like, yeah,
he's gonna play, and then Bob, he's got Tua and Tyreek Hill. What can you do? I mean,
yeah.
just
The good
Dolphins
news though
offense.
is
Yeah,
Kyle has Jalen Waddle. So at least you're gonna be able to play a receiver, the number two option off of Tua, and maybe hope that this is a Waddle week. It's just like a week that Waddle just goes off, maybe for him. But speaking of Buffalo, I mean, with Damian Harris' injury, he might put Latavius Murray in at that running back two spot. I don't know why you wouldn't. They actually got a good amount of play. I mean, James Cook wasn't getting as much run at the end of that game either. Like they were leaving in Murray and Harris, and they weren't really putting James Cook out there, which is weird. So Latavius Murray will have more of a goal line role, and so that might be the way that he goes. But it'll be interesting. I lean Bob's way just because I think he just has the talent. We even just talked about Rashid Shaheed could go off for big plays, so he's putting him out there. So it'll be an interesting one there. But yeah, I lean Bob's way as well. Last but not least, man, the battle of the bottom feeders is what I'm calling it. You two suck. You two are sucking.
yeah.
Your
This is a
injury
must win for me.
injuries have hurt you both badly. It's been
Yeah,
tough to find replacements. And even when you do, you're like, okay, what do I got here?
yeah,
So
exactly.
been tough for you both. What are you feeling, and how are you like? What's your thought process going into this matchup against Zach?
Well, good news is only Joe Burrow has the bye, and he hasn't necessarily played the best. So throwing in Gino there, it's not terrible.
And
I
they're playing
mean, he doesn't
Arizona,
have
so
a
you got a good defense to play against.
yeah,
So that's good.
exactly.
That's good
So
news.
I'm hoping he lights that defense up and puts up some good numbers for me. Like I said, you still got to figure out the running back situation. I don't know if Reynolds is the answer at all. We'll see how the whole Lions running back situation plays out throughout the week.
Yeah,
But I mean, like you said, battle of bottom feeders. This is a must win for both of us. So I really want to win this
true.
one. This is a game that is easily winnable for either of us, just depending on how things play out. So,
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Like either of you could take this matchup, and I think Craig Reynolds is the play because so far, I mean, if anything, Gibbs is coming off of an injury. He hasn't, he hasn't played in a few weeks. So even if he comes back, is he just going to maintain the same role where Reynolds will be the main guy, Gibbs will get passing work and the occasional stuff, So like, I actually like Reynolds in this game with the only tough part is you have Baltimore. Baltimore is a really good run defense, so that part sucks, but you're trying to go for volume, man. You're just going for somebody who's going to get the
yeah,
rock 15 times. Like that's
exactly.
that's that's kind of the key there. And for Zach, it just kind of sucks because the Demercado thing. I'm with you right there, Zach. Of he obviously ain't the guy for Arizona. They don't want him to be it, which it's weird because he performed well when Connor went out that game. So it's weird. Like I think he was like 10 attempts for 40 yards. I mean, that's 4 yards a clip. That's not bad. And he had a couple catches. Like I was kind of surprised that he didn't get that run, but it's obvious they don't want him to get that run. And so Zach's throwing out, Dylan. He actually had a good game the last time he played. It was without Aaron Jones. So I imagine Aaron Jones will be in, but Denver sucks. So maybe that'll be a good one. Jerome Ford against the Colts. That's another good matchup for him. So who knows? And we'll see what Debo does. We'll see if Debo's actually playing. Because I think if Debo doesn't play, that's when he's kind of hurting. Like at that point,
I vote I vote this game of the week, Battle of the Bottom Feeders, just saying.
yeah, it actually is. You got to think because
Yeah.
all right. So if you lose this matchup, whoever loses it is now 1-6. Based on what happened last year, we did have like one or two 7-7 teams. Because if you remember, I guess I should say we had that weird where that very last week we had five, so we had 6 spots for the playoffs, right? Allison was the only one who secured a spot. And then we had 7-6 teams going into that last week. And so if you won, you made it. So if you went
Yeah.
8-6, you're going to make it. But 7-7, it was like you better have enough points, and I lost out. Remember, I was like the 7-7 team. I didn't
Hmm.
make it due to points. So you got to think, yeah, if you don't win, you're at 1-6, and so now you're feeling like I got to win out to be
You got to win
guaranteed
the rest of
playoffs,
them.
and
And
that
that,
means you got to run 7 off in a row after going 1-6. That's a task,
yeah.
man. That is
These
a
are the games you
task.
got to win when you're given the chance. Like Zach and I beating the top teams highly unlikely. So these are the games we got to win. So
And that's a good way to look at it too.
yeah,
And this could also be a reason why you say, "Hey, I'm willing to trade some of these guys too that I like a lot for some overall players," because you're in a mode now, and it's tough because I've never fully committed to this, though you should. You're in a mode of like every week is I'm playing for this week, right? And so I need to win this week. So you need to like make moves that are solely focused on week 7. I don't need to
yeah,
focus on future forward. I'm not caring about other things. Like, so you might trade a Stephon Diggs for 2 players that are playing this week that might get you better overall numbers compared to what you're going to get. Like that's kind of how it goes. It's very odd. But yeah, that's a good point. It could be another game of the week, but just because of what it
yeah,
means. Um, I will tell you that you're going to have a lot more people on your side because they just like to rip on Zach all the time. I'm with you, both of you. I hope it works out. I hope it's a slugfest and it's not just a shit the bed week for one of you and the other gets it. I want these to be battles like this past week was for a lot of us. So good luck to you this week, Tyler.
yeah. Thank you. I'll need it.
Yeah, and good luck to everybody in week 7. I mean, there's multiple battles that are coming up here. As you just mentioned, I think you made a really great point about teams that are at the bottom end. You got to focus on this week. You got to play for it, make those waiver wire moves that need to be made, do some of your research there, offer some trades out there. You said you're going to potentially look for some, and you know, do your best to win the week. Tyler, Zach, I'll say
Andy.
Kyle, Andy, you guys are 2 wins or less. We're near the bottom. We got to, put the pedal to the metal and try to do anything that we can this week to ensure that, yeah, we don't fall behind and get to that point where, ooh, it just one more loss means peace out. I feel like I'm
Done.
out of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
But thank you again. I honestly appreciate you joining me. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here and get you to full screen so people can see that nice fro that you got going on. You got some good hair going
yeah.
too.
I'm refused to get it cut.
When are you
Got the
gonna get
fro
it cut?
go.
Like, what's your goal there?
I have no idea. Winter's coming up. That's my excuse for not getting it cut.
Your hair's just gonna turn into one of those hats. It's just gonna.
I know. I've got the fro going. I know it's just gonna. My hair just grows out, so it does not get longer. This is about as long as you will see it ever.
I
So
know. I feel like I don't really ever see it even that long, but it holds its shape. You got nice curls. I'm jealous as all get out. So
you
I
need
don't
a
got anything
donation.
here. I want surgery that just sews a hat to my head, like a washable hat. It just that's what I need. I need something like that. But I'm just thankful they make hats. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all that is.
protect the head.
Yes, exactly. But thanks again. I appreciate you joining the podcast, man. You did an awesome job. Uh,
Thanks for having
hopefully
me.
others like Kyle and Casey could join it. I mean, you already got rookies on here joining it. Like Glenn and EJ took the first 2 weeks, man, and these people just just being scrubs, just being scrubs. They're
Yeah.
not enjoying
Like I
this.
said, even if you don't know much about football, just join it. It's fun.
Even if we can
Just
just fuck around and talk about dumb shit,
exactly like
I just
the
roll
first
through it.
10, 15 minutes, I think we were just rambling about random fucking shit that
Yeah, about family,
yeah,
right? So I
exactly.
agree.
It's fun.
But yeah, good luck everybody into week 7. Appreciate you listening to the podcast. And we will see you on the flip side, fam. Deuces.
See y'all.